Okay, because if they're all on track for career innings pitched, and you have a guy like Drew Rasmussen, who is coming back from his third major surgery, so you've got a guy like Joe Boyle dominating, wouldn't you be able to minimize his innings? You piggyback Drew Rasmussen with Joe Boyle.
You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Rays, your daily podcast covering everything Tampa Bay Rays, from game analysis to player interviews. We've got you covered with all the latest news and insights. My name is Captain Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
Bringing you expert analysis and passionate discussions about our beloved Rays.
We're here to break down every play, every trade, and every milestone. In fact, this is our 7th season covering the Rays daily.
So grab your favorite Rays gear and settle in, as we have a lot to discuss on this program, namely starting pitching, and at what point will the Rays call up Joe Boyle? He is just chomping at the bit in AAA, and I would imagine it's only a matter of time until he gets another big league opportunity. Plus, we have a fun mailbag question to get to, and just as an aside, hopefully the Rays can start winning series again. We need that against bad teams, no less.
Yes, we do. But before we get to all that, got to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Maybe that's what Junior's doing, watching that iPad. He's downloading it right there.
Oh, it seems to be working. He's hitting home runs left and right. And center, straightaway center seems to be a really good marker for him. And kudos to him for, what is he now at, 21?
I think so. 21, yeah.
Was he not I was kind of in and out of the game the other night, but he was kind of the engine starter as far as the Rays offense going before they ultimately lost. I really thought they were going to win that game.
I know.
I'm like, okay, once you do that and you have momentum on your side against the Oakland Athletics of all teams at home, I would have thought there would be a way to pull it out, but alas, that didn't happen. There's still 2 games against them to knock the cover off the ball and salvage a series. We can't lose. I don't think it's possible. It's not allowed. It's outlawed that the Rays in their current form and iteration can lose 2 consecutive series to bad ball clubs. I will not allow it.
Well, that's the thing about baseball, right? Like it's frustrating at times, but that's why I'm still happy if they go 11-8 in the last 19. That's why the sweep at Kansas City was such a good cushion. But then that cushion, you might lose it if you lose 2 of these series back to back that were supposed to be W's. So, so much for that. Hopefully they come out. I mean, the game right now on Tuesday evening is being started as we are recording, so not a lot to get on that app. But
Canada Day, no less, for the Rays.
Yeah, Canada Day. Also, talking about that, Mead started it with the walk, which was very much needed, and then it was like an avalanche. I mean, Christopher Morel got into it as well. Mangum, obviously Yandy Diaz started it off with a big line drive that got caught, unfortunately. But Jacob Lopez, man, he was basically doing whatever he wanted with the Rays lineup.
Yeah. And
then in 4.5 minutes, just complete 180. And you could see it in his face. He wasn't, BA was saying this in the broadcast, he couldn't believe it. It seemed like he wasn't able to comprehend what had just happened, because he came from a very high peak to the lowest of the lows very quickly.
It can turn on a dime, that's for sure. And that's what, tongue in cheek, when I did the crossover episode with Booney from Locked On A's, that, hey, I hope and expect and believe that the Rays can sweep this series, but I got a little too greedy there. On the flip side, though, we also have to understand that the Oakland Athletics are throwing out multiple lefties. And even the Rays' history versus lefties this year, that could cause some pain and confusion, if you will. And it's just an interesting series from the dynamic, well, multiple dynamics, but just that you have Jeffrey Springs, who is a starter for the Athletics, and Jacob Lopez, who is a starter for the Athletics, and doing respectable, well, more or less what A's fans expected from those two. I actually didn't know if Jacob Lopez would be as good as he has been this year so soon. And the key piece in that trade that the Rays got, Joe Boyle, is withering in AAA. And maybe that's not the right terminology. He is dominating in AAA and is just waiting for that opportunity to get with the big league club, because they're really, to me, there can't be anything else for him to prove. And my point of view is that, as we get into the second half and the innings pitched start to ramp up on the existing 5 starters, there's got to be room for Joe Boyle, even if and when Shane McClanahan enters the fold in late August.
Well, I think with the innings pitch here, which, by the way, great word, withering. Maybe not. He's thriving on the field, but withering emotionally. Yes. I like that. Dude, it's like 85 out of 86 games started by the same 5 guys. Yes. That's incredible. And that one start by Joe Boyle was because he just wanted to push. I believe it was Shane Boss at the time. They just wanted to push a start. So it has been really incredible, this type of consistency, of this type of health by the Rays starters. Now,
yeah, who had that on their bingo card?
Nobody.
Nobody. These would be the same 5 guys from more or less day 1 to July 1st. Nobody, and something's going to have to give at some point. Somebody's either going to need a rest, or somebody's going to have a tweak in the arm or shoulder. Something, there is no way that this can be sustainable for an entire season.
It's not sustainable. No, it's not sustainable in the year of our Lord 2025. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. Now, let's take that equation out and make it even more difficult. Okay, because if they're all right now on track for career innings pitched, right? Everybody is. And you have a guy like Drew Rasmussen, who is coming back from his 3rd major surgery, 2 Tommy Johns, and the 3rd one's not exactly a Tommy John, but it's very near, right?
Right.
So you've got a guy like Joe Boyle dominating. Wouldn't you be able to minimize his innings if perhaps you piggyback Drew Rasmussen with Joe Boyle? I hear you people in the back saying, wait, that's too many roster spots. And we're going to get to that. But first, we got to tell people something very important, Kevin.
All right, let's tell you about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. That is Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House, it is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 of the top brands, actually more than 400 of the top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Whether you're in California or Florida, they can deliver it. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. That's what we like nowadays, even with AI and all that stuff. Supply House, thousands of skilled professionals, they're already taking advantage, and now it is your turn. Go ahead, join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That is at supplyhouse.com. All right, Ulises, continuing on the discussion with Joe Boyle in the rotation. I like the idea. Of pairing and packaging and working together Drew Rasmussen and Joe Boyle. And I guess the Rays, they haven't even used an opener this year, which is shocking, amazing. They are just like going back to 1980s, 1990s baseball. Heck. Yeah, it really is something to behold.
They're going back to 2012. Really Remember when the 2012 starting rotation, man? It was just so much fun. You
Yeah.
got like 6-7 dudes that are just, chomping at the bit to get on the bump. Dude, it feels like that. And let's take it a bit further. You mentioned a word, Kevin, very good there with the opener, right? Well, let's talk about a little bit of maybe not coincidence, because I think we can see what's happening, or at least this is my theory, and I don't know if you agree with it. All of his games, Joe Boyle's in AAA, had been as a starter.
Mm-hmm.
His last one a few days ago, behind an opener. The Rays like to put guys in a situation to succeed.
Right.
If you are putting Joe Boyle, who's been a starter, and you bring him up to MLB and then say, hey, actually, we're going to put you after an opener, that's not getting Joe Boyle in a position to succeed. What is kind of training to see how he does is, let's do it in AAA behind an opener. Can he be successful? Can he adjust? And then that way, okay, now we know you can handle it. You've got some experience, and then we put you in MLB after an opener, who could be a Drew Rasmussen pitching 2 to 3 innings, and then you go Joe Boyle, and you save the bullpen. But hey, Kevin, I hear it. I hear it in your head, and I hear it on everybody else that's watching this. Who goes? Who are you taking out? And the thing is, if you take somebody, if you're doing the piggybacking, you really shouldn't be touching anybody from the rotation, because then you're going to be one without. So
Fair.
what do you do? Do you take somebody out from the bullpen and basically have 6 starters, even though you're going to be playing them in 5 days?
Right.
Or you bring up Joe Boyle and somebody has to come down. And I think that question lies between Shane Baz or Taj Bradley. I don't know which one you would lean for.
Yeah. Well, so just to clarify, your idea is Rasmussen would continue to start as normal. He just wouldn't be going as deep as he had the first couple months, at least until you get into the playoffs. And then you can, let the wheels go and let them really rock and roll. But to make sure you're, I guess, to use an NBA term, load management for Rasmussen when the playoffs are ready and forthcoming. So have Rasmussen throw 3, 4. If he's really feeling frisky, maybe 5, and then you put in Joe Boyle for 1 or 2 or 3. Like, to me,
not even
Joe Boyle.
Not even.
Okay.
I wouldn't put Drew in this idea, in this exercise. I wouldn't put Drew more than 3 innings.
Okay, so really, it could be 3 innings from Rasmussen and 2 or 3 from Boyle,
or 5 or 6 from Boyle.
Okay, so we're ready to let Boyle loose. I mean, it's a good argument because the AAA numbers aren't lying right now. 1.85 ERA, 96 strikeouts and 73 innings pitched, in a .99 WHIP. Plus, he's 6'8" and 250 pounds, so he gives a very unique look for opposing hitters. And the fastball and all the other offerings he has. I know, when he was acquired, there was a big question about command and control and throwing strikes. Well, if your whip's under 1, I think you're doing a pretty decent job of all that. So, yeah, to Shane Baz or Taj Bradley, I mean, it might be recency bias, but Baz looked pretty darn good in his last outing where he went 8 innings strongs. And Taj Bradley in his most recent outing didn't look too hot. And for Taj, it's almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, at least for the previous month, where he has a good start, bad start, good start, bad start. And I think he is starting to get exposed a little bit, where you saw it with the Orioles. They're attacking him early and just not being able to miss bats for one reason or another. And I think and it's kind of interesting because I believe Joe Boyle is actually older than both Baz and Bradley, or the same age. So it's not like Boyle's, a 20-year-old or a 21-year-old. Like,
no,
he is, quote unquote, refined to some extent. So, I mean, if it had to be between those two individuals, I would be more inclined to send Taj Bradley down. And I presume he has options just to get it figured out and to get it right. Because, at the major league level, and I know, there's been articles about Kyle Snyder working with the group and trying to tinker. And you can do that. That's great. But when you're in the throes of a major league season, it's game plans and scouting reports. There's not a lot of room for instruction and mechanics and working on little things here and little things there. That's for AAA and AA.
And honestly, the big word there, execution. You have to execute. At the end of the day, you can see as many video replays and as many spreadsheets as you want. Once you're on the bump, you have to execute. And that's the thing. The consistency of execution with Taj has been a little bit less than what Shane Baz has done. You basically, by the way, they both do have 2 minor league options. So everybody's good there. But, if you had the power to do this, let's say the playoffs are tomorrow. Everybody's rested. Everybody can go. Except the decision is between Tosh and Shane Baz. I was talking about this on Monday and put it on in the comments. I told him, I was like, I would be surprised if everybody chose what I'm thinking, like Shane Baz. I think there is an argument to be made that Tosh could take the ball.
Right.
So, but everybody said Shane Baz. So I think maybe it's a little bit more of a landslide decision, really, because I didn't see anybody pick Tosh in that scenario of like, you need to win one playoff game. It's game 163, do or die, and you can only do Tosh or Shane. I think the vast majority of people would pick Shane Baz right now.
Yeah, and I guess, part of it is Taj Bradley's not, Shane Baz can strike fear in a hitter when his stuff is really working. Where Taj Bradley, if that splitter's not able to be an out pitch like it wasn't against the Orioles, he's kind of really put in a difficult position. And not saying this is the end all be all, but if you look at his Savant page, his chase percentage is in the 36th percentile. His whiff percentage is in the 26th percentile. His strikeout percentage is in the 37th percentile. His walk percentage is in the 37th percentile. So he's really not fooling anybody. And that makes it even more troublesome if you're getting to a game 163 or the playoffs. The offenses typically are better than what you've faced on average throughout the regular season. So, you may be able to get by against the Royals, but if you're facing a team that is notably better than that, it could be a rough day at the ballpark.
And also, I'm quickly trying to check this out, but I'm pretty sure Tosh has never pitched in the playoffs before.
Yeah, and he's just not striking out guys
so
like
that would be his
previously.
first one. Yeah, I'm seeing no playoff appearances, and from from what you can remember from on the top of your head, like I don't remember that. So yeah, it would be his first one too. I gotta lean Shane Baz here just because of that minimal experience that he had in 2021, which wasn't a pleasant one, but just a little bit more consistency on that side. So so you would be. Okay, so now
I would be okay with sending Taj Bradley down and calling up Joe Boyle, because I think today Joe Boyle would be more effective in whatever role he is used than Taj Bradley. Not to say that,
fair.
And again, I don't, maybe this is who Taj Bradley is. Maybe he is a number 5 or a number 4. We like to think he is more than that, but in his time with the big leagues, has he really shown that he's more than that?
He's shown flashes, but never consistent. The most consistent he has ever been was last summer, June, July, where he just had like 9 incredible weeks, which basically bought Alex Jackson his whole ticket to ride on MLB.
Maybe that's why he's struggling this year. Is no Alex Jackson.
Get Alex Jackson back in this bleeping roster. Neander, what are you doing, man?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's been bad. But so in this scenario, now that we've explored the path of, piggybacking, you would do the piggybacking and then remain everybody and then kick somebody off the bullpen? Or would you rather not piggyback, take Tosh out, insert Boyle?
Well, who are you thinking from the bullpen to remove from the equation?
Well, that is a very good question
to remove.
That is a very good question, and I think we should tell folks the options about that. But first, got to tell you something very important on the Locked On Rays podcast. Your team every day.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning that big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money, it's more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. We all like that, right? So go ahead, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. All right, so the question is, remove a starter or remove a bullpen arm?
Exactly. If you go to the bullpen right now, I think there are 3 names that sound on the fringes right now. It's for base, Rock, and this might not be too much of a hot take, but Uceta hasn't been the same. It has to be said. So between those 3, I think that would be where the roster spot would come if you needed to come from the bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to that. It's not like I'm married to any of those guys, and I think Joe Boyle would provide more value. He'd be, I guess, quote unquote, a bullpen arm, but a long reliever. Like, I would be okay with sticking him as a long reliever and use him as the role suggests versus, sending down a Taj Bradley or something like that. So yeah, I'd be fine either way. Really, my ultimate objective is to get Joe Boyle on the major league roster, because I think it's not that it's doing him a disservice, but I think he can help you win games. And I don't know if it's service time reasons or there is something very specific that they're waiting on from him. Or maybe they're waiting till the trade deadline. Maybe they have something brewing with trading one of their existing starters, and then that would create a lane for Joe Boyle to make an impact.
Which is something,
it's not out of the question to say that, one of the 5 starters could be dealt.
Yeah, and one name that has always been on our, option list of getting traded as top 3 is Zach Littell. The issue is, though, because of the performances from both Shane Baz and Taj Bradley, Zach Littell has now been incredibly needed in the Rays rotation. So I understand the concept of trading him at his highest value. He's never going to be at a higher value right now in the trade deadline, Zach Littell.
Right.
However, can you really do the same thing that you've been doing without Zach Littell? I mean, the guy is a machine of consistency. Kevin, I will repeat this stat because it's still true. Only 3 of his starts, he's allowed 4 runs or more. 3. Mm-hmm. He's going on 17 games started now. That's consistency that you need. And to my earlier question to you, hey, if there's a playoff game today, tomorrow, would you give the ball to Shane Baz or Taj Bradley? Hey, yeah, at the 3rd name, Zach Littell.
Right.
Who's Rays fandom, Rays Nation going to give the ball to?
Yeah.
Zach?
As long as he gets a little bit of run support, then he can hold the fort down for sure. Yeah. So, and I think, on that end is if the Rays are really confident that Shane McClanahan will be back late August, then you're gonna need a starting rotation spot from him, unless they're just gonna keep him in a bullpen role. But at some point, if all these guys are going to be healthy and productive, you can't have 7 starters on the roster at the same time. Something has to give at some point. So I would suggest that there's a lot of moving parts, but within a single game, a single inning, a single pitch, your situation can change on a dime. Now, with all that, do you expect Joe Boyle to be called up before the All-Star break?
No.
How about before the trade deadline?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So
it's happening this month.
Late July.
Yeah, okay. Mid to late July for sure. for sure.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good. And we need to have the Shane McClanahan conversation of how is he going to return as a starter or as a bullpen guy. I will lean towards the latter, but that'll be for another day, Kev, because we got a really good mailbag question we got to get to in the last 3-4 minutes of the show. Edward Kelly says, hey guys, love the pod. Do you guys think that the Rays have hindered the development of some of the younger guys by how much they have then sit not playing? For example, look at the improvements Aranda has had now. He's playing every day, and how well Mangum has performed. Do you think them sitting has slowed down the development and performance of people like Mead and Aranda when he was first brought up? By the way, this was sent on June 20th, so we get to them. Yes. We get to all of them, okay, people? We get to all of them. So please go ahead and send your mailbag questions. Edward, I think your question maybe was serendipitous that we left it to this episode, because I think the answer to what you're saying is there's only so many roster spots, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes there aren't as many as we would like. We just talked about 6-7 rotation options, maybe even 8, really. And just not enough, right?
And that might be part of the question too, not to interject quickly here, but with Joe Boyle, maybe the Rays are saying, no, we think you can be a starter, just right now there's not a spot. So we don't want to call you up just to be a reliever or a long reliever. We are going to play this out until we have a spot for you to thrive every 5 days.
Which, again, not to go back to it, but that's why I think them having the last game he pitched after an opener really does say a lot, I think, because why would you switch after 15 games where he has been impeccable? It's because you're trying to see something.
Yeah.
You're trying to see how he can adjust, and that would tell you that that's maybe how they plan to use him. Remember, that's how, Yarbrough, Fleming, Chirinos, they were used, and maybe that's the plan for Joe Boyle. But sometimes there's just aren't enough roster spots to say, hey, Curtis Mead, go ahead and take it. Now, this year, finally, Jonathan Aranda has the opportunity, has the lane, has the position, has the roster spot to, hey, go play every day. But the situation is there aren't so many spots, so you are going to have these situations happen. You just hope that they are consistent enough in their inconsistency of playing time that they are able to grow within that and then finally show, hey, I can have a bigger role. If Mead keeps going as he's been since May 20th, which has been on a tear, I think he's almost at 190-something WRC plus since May 20th in 60 or so plate appearances. If he keeps doing that, that would give the Rays a little bit of, hey, maybe we do have a starter there. We do have a guy there that can give us 130 games.
Yeah, it's just something where, as much as it sucks to be, a rookie level player that's not getting as much action that he's used to in the minor leagues or throughout college or high school, that's just the name of the game. I mean, unless you have, I would say, for somebody that is a top prospect, they will find a way to give that player reps. It's kind of like, I think, what the Diamondbacks did with Corbin Carroll, where even if you suck, we're still going to give you playing time because we want you to figure it out. Heck, maybe that's what they're doing with Chris Morel. We're just going to keep giving you opportunities to see if you can get out of this and find your way. But yeah, I mean, when you're only playing 3 days a week or 2 days a week and only getting a couple at bats a week, it's hard, especially at the major league level when you're trying to adjust to MLB velocity and learning how pitchers and teams are attacking you and making tweaks based on experience. It does you no good to sit on the bench and come in as a pitch hitter or get, 1 or 2 spot starts a week. But I think it's the guys that can deal with that and handle it and adjust to it are the ones that make it out. Survival of the fittest, if you will. And if you're making excuses or complaining about your situation, well, you're not going to make it in the major leagues very long. So it's kind of a test in a way that you got to figure it out on your own. With your limited opportunities, you have to make some sort of impact. You have to showcase what you can do, and you have to find your timing and feel within that. And that's just, it sucks, but that's just what it is. And, it sometimes makes it even worse because a guy doesn't get that many opportunities and he struggles in that opportunities, then there becomes a narrative that's set by the media and the fans of, oh, this guy can't hack it, this guy can't do it. And it can kind of derail you from there. But I think, Jonathan Aranda is a guy that is a testament to, he just kept grinding and kept getting a little bit better. And eventually he had that window and he took off with it.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you hope that these guys can do. But just like you said earlier, they're not all supposed to be top, if they might be top prospects, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be, everyday major leaguers.
Yeah. So, I should even say that about Curtis Mead. Again, Curtis Mead, it's taken him a while to figure it out, but it looks like he's figured it out. So the Rays might, be fortunate to have both those guys work out, whereas a guy like Vidal Brujan didn't work out so well for the Rays. So it happens there. All right. Thank you for the question. We appreciate it. Keep them coming. LockedOnRays@gmail.com. In the meantime, we hope you all have a wonderful day. And thank you for listening to the Locked On Rays podcast, your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Local analysis on a national scale. You can find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on the YouTubes or wherever you listen to your podcasts.